so uncomfortable. But he started with calling musicians financial whores. Everybody in the room,
Mhm.
there's like 10 musicians in the room, calls all whores. And I'm like, oh, okay. What what triggered him to say that? So I wanted to unpack that with you. So can you talk about, and I'll jump in as well. Financially, why do musicians deserve to get compensated for their skill set?
Before I answered that question, that was my
Or
second
yeah,
answer. The first
yeah,
thing is, let's just get back to musicians are whores.
yes.
Pastor, for you to have made that analogy, that lets me know you are intimately familiar with what whores do.
He says he was a musician himself. And
I'm just saying.
yeah,
So
yeah,
for you to make that analogy, you just sound like you be where the hoes at. So what you telling me, Pastor? You
right.
don't really that's not something that will roll off your tongue unless you don't be with the hoes.
Yes. Or surrounding yourself with people that are actual horrors in your ministry or whatever. So
Or
yeah,
maybe you're one. Maybe that just you like you're telling me so much. Because that's not the
exactly.
way to me, that's just not the way a godly man would speak. And I feel like as a minister, somebody who gets up and speak at least 2 to 3 days a week, you should at least have a few more words in your bag. You could have got your point across much more efficiently and, appropriately than that. But that's a red flag number one. Like that's not the way you should be talking. You're telling me way too much about your personal life. Anyway.
Yeah, and my thing is this, like in the book of Nehemiah, I quote this all the
Mhm,
time when people ask about why musicians get paid. In the book of Nehemiah, the Levites, who were the praise and worship leaders of the tribe, would go out and battle. They would go out and usher in the spirit before the Hebrews would go to battle, go to the temple. The Levites were always in front. But what had happened was, as the temple was being built, the Levites were also tilling in the fields and also praise and worshiping, and their families were starving, and
mhm.
the temple started to suffer as a result. So Nehemiah had to intervene with the tribal leaders and be like, "Hey guys, like our services are suffering because these guys aren't don't have the energy to basically feed their well, they don't have the energy to one, minister at their highest level. They don't have funds to provide for the families, and we're requesting all this time and this energy and everything, and they have nothing to show for it. Use the tithe from the church to compensate for the Levites. That's
Mhm.
where the precedent in the church for musicians to be paid. That's exactly where it's at,
Right.
and it's been that way ever since. A godly man, a man in ministry, should know that. And every musician should know that specific example because I feel like there is a prostitution element to musicians playing in the church. I feel like musicians don't understand that there's a difference between your time and your gift. People don't have access to your gift. People have access to your time. You are compensated solely for your time. Now, what you do with their time, that's a whole nother thing. But at the end of the day, you are compensated for your time. Your gift belongs to God, and God is the one that pours into your gift. He makes your gift bigger. If you're obedient, He puts your gift through trials and tribulations. He does all that to make sure that you are in the most optimal space to share your gift. And if you have the right heart posture to God and use your gift to glorify God, there's no door that he can't open. I wish he would have said that, but he didn't say it. He said, all musicians are whores. And quite frankly, my friend is right. And I was like, oh, the disrespect on top of disrespect. So I was like, bro, I
Well,
can't worship with you.
as the woman on the outside of this listening, I'm just raising my eyebrows because, uh, generally speaking, like to make that analogy that musicians are whores. Firstly, let's just start here. Prostitution is a sin, fornication is a sin. And not only that, but if we're just talking about sex workers in general, that's just a highly off base, disrespectful analogy to make because there's nothing particularly unsafe about a musician getting up to play on a Sunday. So when you make that analogy, you're already disrespecting women, even
Yeah,
if they are quote unquote whores, because the last time I checked, the church is a hospital for the sick. This should be a place where horse should be able to come and feel safe. But if, you know, in your free time, you're ridiculing them for what's going on, and how safe is this a place for the spiritually sick? If there is a horse somewhere in the congregation looking to be saved, if this is the type of thing that come out your mouth, then I don't really think that you're the type of person I want to be led by. But
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why
yeah,
I
that's
left.
this
Yeah.
is all of this is concerning. And as far as there being a prostitution element to musicianship, I think second of all, I'm
Second
not
of
gonna
all.
be you. So let's get to second of all. Second of
Okay.
all,
Yeah.
and we talked about this briefly via text. Musicians themselves have to stop falling for appeal to emotion. We both been to college. We understand the basics of debate and argument and logical fallacy. All it is appeal to emotion. He's trying to convince you that because you were quote unquote gifted with this talent, you owe it to the church to get up, perform, and serve for free. But you being a musician who has done your 10,000 hours, me being a musician who has done my 10,000 hours, we both know, even if you are one of them kids who come out the womb with perfect pitch, you still got to put some work in,
Hmm.
a lot of work in before you can get to
I'd
the
argue, I'd
point.
argue, I'd argue more. And it's more mental
I'd
as
argue
opposed to,
more.
yeah, it's more mental as opposed to physical. It's more mental and emotional and spiritual
And
because
time.
in time,
The
yeah.
the time, especially after, you have children, I have children, the amount of quiet time, the amount of sleep you have to sacrifice to get these things done when the house is quiet,
Hmm.
so that you can be present, that it takes quite a bit of time, weeks to weeks a week, to be able to get up and perform in this way.
Yeah.
So, and that's not a gift. There is no gift in that. That's not free.
Mm-mm. It's work.
Gifts are free.
Yeah.
Gifts are
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
You get gifts for existing.
Yeah.
You do not become talented simply you do not become talented simply because you exist. You're that talented because you got up and you did those 10,000 plus hours. And for that, you should be paid. So, the next time you refer to your talent as a gift, really think about how you're marketing yourself, because you're
Yeah.
telling people that you woke up one day and all of this was free, and you know it ain't free.
It's not free. Not free. And that's a good point what you just made, where I feel like a lot of musicians in those positions where they're serving people like that, like I said, I think that they're there for the wrong incentive. And I don't know about you, but I've learned that the higher the paying gig, the more drama. And sometimes it's okay just to, you don't have to necessarily. So here's my problem, I guess, with musicians, not so much musicians, but the culture around musicians nowadays, where I scroll on TikTok and I see somebody scroll,
Hmm.
scroll, steal these chords, scroll. Oh, you want to do better at your playing? Try this. Scroll. Like, I feel like
Hmm.
there's a lot of advertising and a lot of selling of skills to make yourself a better musician, but there's no depth or breadth to how to get to that point. Hey, this is what Corey Henry plays. Steal these chords and play like Corey Henry. Jacob
Hmm.
Collier. We can talk about Jacob Collier, but like it's a science. It's weird to me. I don't understand. I don't know. It's just
I don't really take that content personally.
I
I
do.
just feel like I don't take it personally because I guess I understand algorithms, and I understand that's how you get paid, and I believe
Yeah,
everybody deserves to eat. So if that's the way
yeah,
you get paid, by making these little short infographic, still these chords, and it gets viewed 1.2 million times and you get a check from that, good for you.
yeah.
But and I know that to get to any sustainable point of musicianship, you need a real lesson plan.
That part, and that's what I was going to get to. That's what I was going to get
You
to.
need a
There's a lot.
lesson plan.
I guess my problem is the shortcuts and not
Hmm.
explaining the long cut. The shortcuts work fine, but you'll find yourself in positions, especially as a keyboard player, where you can't you're in the key of B natural and you're in the Kojic church and they're about to shout. And if you don't know, you're like those shortcuts aren't going to work anymore. So I just feel like that's my issue. It's just the shortcuts. I wish we put more emphasis on conversations like this, where we could talk long form about what it takes to be. proficient at your craft in a way that you have integrity and sincerity, and your gift can make room for you. I think that's my only thing. I probably sound like an old man yelling at the cloud, but yeah, I just it's just I'm not a fan of shortcuts. The transposing. By the way,
Oh
I
yeah.
went to the church and the organ
Hmm.
was transposed. We could talk about transposing on a whole nother episode, but the organ was
Right.
transposed. I was like, oh, that's an indication of musical character to me, but that's a whole nother conversation. Back to the horse. Love horse. All right, so so on top of that, he had made threats that in the green room he was going to go back a year in time and go through the footage and figure out what people were saying about him. And I had told this guy, after I told him that God, doesn't get the glory if you take all the credit, I told this guy straight to his face that, bro, I don't think you have any peace in your life. And I'm sorry for you, and I want to pray for you. And I just pray that he's like, no, but it's my job to fix it. I'm like, yeah, you can fix it. That's fine. But sir, the reasons you're pointing out to your people about why things are falling apart, I say you said I 65 times. I'm pretty sure that there's only one common denominator in all this. So after that, I was like, well, maybe this is not the place for you to serve. I walked up and left. People were like, oh my goodness, did this guy just walk out of this church? This is like the church of the churches. This is, if you get on this church, you're on. No, it's about my integrity. It's about making sure spiritually I'm in line with somebody that can cover me spiritually. And that was a situation where and that's the thing about us PKs growing up in church, we identify the toxic faster than anybody.
Certainly.
Sometimes we have the toxic in us, and that helps us identify. But no, we could spot a mark from a mile away. We could spot somebody
Hmm.
that's in it for the wrong reasons. So I was like, let me just. So I text you. I'm like, Raven, read this, please. And but
So quick
yeah,
question. What
yes,
was your membership at this church?
no, I was a guest. That's the other thing. I was a guest organist. I wasn't even a member or anything. So he airing out the dirty laundry in front of a guest, and I would have rather not have been in there. And had I done it over again, I probably shouldn't have been in there. But
Right.
he felt like it was his domain. It's his, it's his building, which is a whole nother. It's not his building. God is the church. You worship God. You are the shepherd of the flock.
So
Yeah.
refresh me on this point.
Yes.
Calling the musicians whores, was this in response to asking to be paid? Like, why would he say that? Was it unprovoked? Like,
It
what
was
was the point?
unprovoked. It was unprovoked. I think what he was trying to do, I think what he was trying to say was that musicians would bust their arm and a leg just to play at this church. And I compensate you guys very well for being here. And you can be replaced easily. It was one of those type of situations.
Oh, I thought this was like you
Yeah.
asked for money and that was the response. I didn't realize
No.
this was just off the chest. Nobody asked you for this.
Yeah, this is a culture he's created at that church. And now he's tired of the culture and he's taking it out. He's making the musicians the scapegoat. And there's a lot of
Oh
mega
wow.
churches, a lot of big churches that do that. They create that culture of there's the culture of competition. There's a culture that competitive culture, which personally doesn't. I don't do well with competition. I'm not in competition with anybody but myself, and I feel like if you're in competition with somebody for their position, you don't know what it takes to stay in that position because there's different conversations happening at that level that you may not have the patience or the strength or the resolve to deal with. There's artists you've dealt with major label artists. There are artists you
Hmm.
deal with where they have massive egos and stuff, and you can't tell them anything, and they tell you to put you in this key, and they may be off, but you're the guest, so you gotta make sure that you. So like, there's a whole dynamic I think that he's missing in trying to make that point. Do musicians prostitute their gifts? Sometimes. It's not the majority. It's definitely the minority, in my opinion. At least where
But
I'm at.
do you owe anyone loyalty? That's why I specifically asked, are you a member of this church? Because how are you prostituting yourself if you're simply being paid for your services? It's not like this is your pastor and this is where you put your membership at. So why do I owe you any loyalty? Because that's the difference between a quote unquote prostitute and a partner or wife, or is that this is, the exclusivity of a relationship. The only relationship is you seem to have with this person is that they write you a check after you get up off that organ bench.
And then you were
So
complaining that they transactional. I'm like, bro.
You
It's
don't, I
you.
don't go here.
I
I
don't
don't
go
go
here. Yeah,
here.
you don't know
This is a
me.
Wendy's. This is a
Yeah,
Wendy's.
this is Wendy's.
I was so
You're a
confused. I was like,
baconator.
I thought this was like you're a pastor. No, this is the church you
No,
playing
no,
at.
no,
Then what is
no,
that
no.
about?
No, no, not at all. I told my dad this too, and he just laughed. He was like, in my 38 years of pastoring, I've never heard any pastor talk like that to anybody, let alone
No.
musicians. Because I've seen churches where musicians walked out. I've seen churches where musicians quit in the middle of service. I've seen fights in the church for musicians, like
Were his
musicians.
services like this? Like, are his sermons kind
It's
of this general
CCM.
tone?
It's like it's CCM. It's like straight up. It's the white pastor with the black musicians. So the
Mm-hmm.
congregation
Mm-hmm.
is majority white, but the musicians are black and the music is banging, which is fine. It's not an
Right.
issue. It's not an issue to me. But the thing is, I think oftentimes some people use our gifts for God's glory, and some people use it for their own glory. And like I said, I think why so the thing is, when I was in that room, nobody was speaking up at all. I was the only person to speak up, and I was a guest. And I started out like, yo, sir, I'm a guest here, like I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not. I said respectfully, I was being respectful because I'm a guest. But I realized right away it was a spiritually abusive relationship, and that he has with these musicians. And like you said, demanding loyalty, demanding this, demanding that, where your only job description is just to play and maybe fellowship with a few people and be professional on time, know your stuff, and go home. That's the expectation, and I'm feeling the expectation. There shouldn't be any complaints about what I do outside. Anything outside of that for me is a bonus. So
The
I don't know.
problem, the problem with faith-based, ministry and being paid and faith-based thing like that is this extreme lack of professionalism because there's no other place where that would fly.
At all. And I'm surprised the musicians didn't go up and try to fight that dude.
I can't think of a single place where you can get that off and that's cool. And everybody just kind of returns the next day. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. I say I know some musicians in that room, and I've been praying for them nonstop because I'm like, man, I cannot give my
Right.
gift to somebody like that. Cannot,
But I
cannot.
mean, and that's when we get back to the conversation about gifts versus talents.
Oh, let's talk about it.
Gifts, talents, and skills. So
Okay.
this is the part where we call each other as musicians to task, and we do a little bit of deconstruction of the Christian language. Um, and we talked about this. You know, a gift is free,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
your time isn't free. Your attention isn't free, and you know how much time and attention that you have to pay from Sunday to Sunday to learn these songs and be able to get up there and perform. And then not only that, but the rehearsals and the time that you have to spend in your little man cave or wherever you got set up at home so you can practice and do whatever you have to do so you can get up on Sunday and be capable.
Hmm. Right.
That that's all time and it all costs money. Time is money. None of that is a gift. None of it's free. None of that stuff in that room that you're sitting in right now is free,
Definitely.
but you use it for the job that you're being paid for on Sunday. So,
Yes.
and you deserve to be paid fairly for that. So we have to be very, very cautious of the language when we call it a gift because nothing about, a gift requires payment except going to buy it before you give it to the person. If it's something that you bought.
Yeah.
But what you're doing, none of it is free. And you deserve to be compensated fully and
Y-
completely.
Yes. I always say that your gift is something you have, your talent is something you develop. And the
Correct.
development is and I think you have to discern the difference because I think the last actually I quit the music industry because I had a singer try to sue me because she said I gave her sound away, and I'm like, I gave your sound we can talk about that offline. Whole nother issue. I was like, I don't wish nothing but bad things on you because, like I said, this is my gift. I share my time with you. You got
Hmm.
so enamored with the sound that you took ownership of something that you can't create. And it upsets you that
Hmm.
you can't reduplicate what I do with anybody else because I
Hmm.
spent my 10,000 hours. I spent my
Hmm.
time in the studio, in the lab, in the crates, and the Shirley Caesars and the James Clevelands and the GEWA workshop in Dallas in 2006. Like I
All
did
of
my
it.
time. I did all of it. So, but yeah, I just wanted to share that story because, like I said, musicians, we just got to. ask, we got to demand better for ourselves in terms of situations like that, where we like there's bad pastors, there's toxic pastors with amazing music ministries. Like there, I don't want to put this all on all pastors. Like there are good pastors that know how to have a good, good relationship with musicians. A lot of pastors in the black church specifically are former musicians themselves.
Quick
It's-
question.
yes,
So, if musicians are whores, then who's the pimp?
that's exactly what when I shared that with my group, my other church I went to yesterday. That's exactly like yeah, and I think he
Like,
realized
hold
that
on.
he didn't
So
realize
who's
that.
pimping them? Who's pimping them? Because
That's why. I mean,
see, I took my Adderall before I did this. I'm thinking too deep.
oh no, come on,
I'm thinking too deep. But
no, but no,
I really
it's right.
is he the pimp? Like, who's the pimp?
Clearly, that's how he functions as a leader of people.
He's pimping y'all?
And that's why I left. I'm like, oh, you're not about to pimp me. You're not about to disrespect me and say that to me. Like, don't say, you shouldn't say that to anybody. It's on some manhood stuff. Like, you should have said it to anybody, but nah, bro. Like, it's exactly a lot of, and the preachers,
Nasty.
and that preacher and pimp Venn diagram is,
He really sees himself that way.
yeah.
Like I'm concerned for how he sees himself, how he postures himself
And
as a
that's why
man
I
of
told him,
Christ.
and that's why I
That is
told him,
concerning.
I'm like, sir, you don't have any peace. If that's the way you think, you have no peace in your life. And then I found out some other stuff I'm not going to get into. I'm not trying to make this all about him, but I do want to make sure musicians that we know who we're, make sure you know who you're spiritually aligned to before you share your
Mhm.
gift. I mean, it's okay to like go and gig and network and everything. That's totally fine. But if the leader is toxic, I'm telling you, bro, your gift's not going to get better. You're not going to get better
No.
as a musician or a person. You may get more
And your
money.
mental health will suffer. Your mental
Your
health
mental
will
health will
suffer.
suffer. Your time will be more demanded from. You'll spend less time with your family and your loved ones. But you might make more money. That might be the trade-off. But like I said, spiritual alignment is very important to me. I play at my best when I'm in the right place and I'm spiritually aligned to what God has me to be, and I can worship, get into that worship mode where I can just let loose and release all the drama and tension and anxiety I've been saving up for the week. So yeah.
So here's the other side of that coin. And this is what I was getting at with you when I asked, I was like, I know you don't have your membership there. So if you're working and you're using your skills to make money at a church that you are not necessarily a member of,
Mhm.
should you really seek leadership from the pastor? Like, is that someone that do you feel like you need to be led, or are you only there? I mean, you are there to minister. That's just going to
Yes.
happen naturally. You're not only there for the money, you're there to
No.
minister. That's just going to
No.
happen through the process of service. So I won't say that just because you're not a member there, you're only there for the money. That's not right.
No. No.
But is it, have you gotten to a point where you don't necessarily have to be led to function? Because that seems like a situation where, for some people like yourself, you're at a point where you can walk away from that, but another musician, they
Right.
may have to take that on the chin to pay their car note.
Right.
So
Right.
what do you
Right.
have to say for people who are in that position where no, your relationship with Christ is personal. You might just have to eat this one,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
and take it on over to God after in the parking lot after you leave tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
what do you have to say for people in that position who can't walk away?
Yeah. It's a very tough conversation to have, and especially here in Phoenix because like Phoenix, the talent pool is so dry, and in terms of just
Mhm.
outstanding musicians, they're very far and few in between here. So if you can get a situation where you're able to provide for your family on a consistent basis, it's a work situation, just like any other work profession. Like, just drama with your coworkers, drama with your boss. It's the same dynamic, but it gets cloaked in the Holy Spirit and being holy. There's a spiritual standard there that both parties have to adhere to in order for the relationship to be mutually beneficial. So I was pitching for somebody that wasn't there. It was a one-time thing. I wasn't like trying to get on at this church at all. I am very content and happy with where I was at. I just happened to be out of town. I was out of town. I took a gig. I took a gig on the 4th of July. So I happened to be in town. So I took this gig to cover for my guy. And like I said, I had no expectation that this was going to happen. I thought I was just going to rehearse and go home and been good. But I'm glad that meeting happened because that was a wake up call for me because that would have been the most money I've made at a gig since I've been out here in 12 years, a church gig. And
Hmm.
I walked away from it because it was just like, okay, this was not going to be a spiritually and mutually beneficial relationship for me and this guy. I didn't necessarily need his leadership, but I needed his respect for at least for the musicians that serve him. And these are beasts. I needed him to at least have respect for the fact that there are people making sacrifices for him. That would be the only thing that I can call him out on because I don't know him. I don't know his leadership style. I don't know. I mean, I know it now, but I think, like I said, those situations with him and his staff and his coworkers. That's for them to mitigate and stuff. I would never tell you to walk away from a situation unless you had another situation that was comparable, because I understand. Because like in Phoenix, it's really hard. If you lose a gig like this, I'm telling you, it's gonna be hard to reduplicate that kind of money in a church setting, unless you're a full-time musician, and it's very far and few between. And that's kind of why Phoenix is the way it is culturally when it comes to musicians. It's very hard on musicians because, like, people will do anything they can to keep those positions. So I would just say to those musicians, like, just stay resolute in your faith. If you can have a conversation with somebody and you can share with them, just be resolute, but make sure that at the end of the day, it's about respect. Don't let anybody
Right.
disrespect you. They can correct you, they can lead you, they can chastise you. They feel like you are out of order. Totally fine.
Hmm.
Don't let anybody disrespect you. That's my only line. Don't, because it was disrespectful and he doubled down on it.
For
And I was like,
sure.
oh, yeah. I'm like, I don't, that's why I said what I said. I'm like, oh, I don't want to mess up anybody else's money in this room. I'll mess up my money for their behalf. And
Right.
that's how people took it. And when I tell people that story, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you are a hero! Thank you for standing up to him. Nobody stood up to this dude before." Like I did that on their behalf. I made that
Hmm.
sacrifice for them because I'm blessed. I have a great job. I can provide for my family without music. But no, this guy's not going to disrespect these guys in front of me and think that that's par for the course. So that would
Right.
be my response to that question.
Okay. Okay. But it's a blessing that you were able to not only walk away from that, be able to speak to it after the fact. And you know, I'm proud
Thank
of you,
you.
friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. And you're
Hmm.
my first
See,
podcast guest. And you are
ain't
my
that?
first
Ain't
podcast.
that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah.
know.
Yeah. So, like I said, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If you're listening, just thank you. Because, like, it did take a lot of courage. My wife was like, "What? You did what?" I'm like, "Oh," she's like, "Oh, I know you, Calvin. This is you." I'm like, "Yeah." But I didn't want to talk all about that. I want to talk about other stuff with you. So what's been going
Okay.
on in your world? What's been going on in the world of Nashville? And what are some of your musical observations that you've seen? Like I said, I don't want to mess up anybody's money, but what are some observations that you've been wanting to, I guess, talk
Uh,
about on a long form platform like this?
so
And I'll give you some
I
if you don't have anything.
I touched grass in
Uh-oh.
Nashville about October of last year. I didn't really get active doing anything musically until about January. So I'm still very
Okay.
green behind my ears as far as the way that the Nashville ecosystem works. What I am realizing is that, I'm from the South, I'm from New Orleans, but I really cut my teeth in music in Los Angeles. So I'm learning
Mm,
that this is the handshake city. This is the relationship city.
mm-hmm.
You know, they know you, your mom, and everybody else. So it's one of those type of places. It's not Los Angeles in that respect. Like your relationships seriously matter. It's a lot of business. Like you will get paid. It's not that type of situation where people are trying to finesse you or anything like that. Because I feel like just the country music ecosystem has a certain standard of professionalism about it
Yeah.
in the way that you get paid and the way they handle things. But as far as relationships and making sure that you continue working, this ain't the place to burn no bridges.
It's not.
So
It's not.
yeah.
And I cut
So
my teeth. I cut my teeth in Nashville in terms of just the music industry. That was my first music industry experience was in Nashville. about
Hmm.
13 years ago, and it's exactly what you said. It's definitely a situation where you gotta have good vibes about you, but you also gotta
For
be a
sure.
beast at your craft. You gotta be a beast. You gotta be able to walk into a session, knock it out one take, and go home. It's that
Hmm.
level. Belmont's there and stuff. TSU's there. You have the music industry is actually there. Like when I was there,
Hmm.
like it was like Kenny Chesney in one room and T-Pain in another room, and we were at the studio that the Beatles recorded at. Like the music industry is in Nashville, but yeah, it is much different. I had more fun in LA, but I got a lot more done in Nashville than I did in LA. But LA is this uh what would you say, I guess, in terms of musical talent? Do you feel like there's more talent in Nashville than LA, or 'cause I feel like people go to LA to, oh crap, I am Zach one too. Let me edit this. Zach one two. I had to edit this. How am I doing this?